Hello everyone, Richard here at Calvin Wazoo, where it's taken me most of my life to learn how to balance the terror of being alive with the wonder of being alive. I have been looking at quite a few channels, book channels, people talking about books. And this is a new topic that I am venturing into with my channel. And I'm getting ready to pack my library, and this is only a small part of it, as well as I've been preparing to pack my record collection to get ready to move. And I thought, hey, I've been watching a few of these other videos, and I like how people just talk about books on their shelves that they have, regardless of whether they've read them. And I thought, yeah, I could do that while I'm packing books, because I've got to do that. So I'm going to start with this particular shelf here, and I'm just going to go through this top shelf up here, maybe part of this shelf here, and talk about the books that are there, not in any really great depth, but just to show some of the some of the titles that I have. These are mostly nonfiction books. It's a mix though. There are some fiction books as well as nonfiction. I have a shelf over there that's entirely nonfiction, and I've already packed my shelves of just fiction books. But this particular shelf is a little bit of a mix, and it is mostly older books and some first editions that I have collected over time. And I'm going to start up here. I also got a few trinkets up here. A friend of mine, he went to visit his family in China, and he came back and gave me this little slinky dragon. It's kind of a cute thing. Up here also, this is something that I picked up in Bali. It's just a Hindu type character, god or something, that I bought. I went to this monkey park, and this was after the October bombing back in 2005 in Bali. And a friend of mine, we already had reservations to go to Bali, and then the bombing happened like 10 days before we were to arrive. And we saved our reservations, and we went anyway. And yeah, the bombings really devastated the tourist economy there. And we went to this monkey park, and the way they organize it is when you arrive at the park, there's a vendor who has a tourist stand, souvenir stand, and they act as they take turns, and they act to take you through the park. And then at the end of the tour of the monkey park, and after they talk, they bring you to their stall where they sell their souvenirs. And because of the bombing, there was like nobody there. And, I really wasn't interested in buying anything, but it's like it had devastated these people. I mean, their entire economy, their entire livelihood was based on, having tourists buy something from their stall. And under normal circumstances, they would get a turn several times a day, that because of the number of tourists. So all these stalls, the vendors would get opportunities. And I was talking to this particular vendor, and I asked her, how often have you been able to take visitors? And she said that I and my friend, we were the first visitors she led on a tour for that day. And the previous one she had was 2 days earlier. That's how few tourists were coming to Bali after that bombing. And she said, normally I do 10 to 15 tours a day. And so it was like, oh man. So I bought this. I didn't even haggle with her very much because I just felt so sorry for them, how, you know, the terrorist act, you know, just devastates local people, and, you know, to prove what point. But anyway, that's the story about that little item that I picked up from Bali. All right, so this book here, I've already done a video about. This is Caracol by Edmund White. So yes, I've already done a video on that. Up here on the top are my books by Carlos Castaneda. So we'll start off with, grab some of them here, and a little dusty. First one is this one, The Teachings of Don Juan, A Yaqui Way of Knowledge. This is a true first edition on the University of California Press. He wrote it for his master's thesis. And when I bought this, you know, this photo was inside of it, and I think this is a photo of Carlos Castaneda. I'm not sure though. You know, famous book where about the Yaqui medicine man, Don Juan, you know, that Carlos Castaneda allegedly met and kept visiting in the Sonoran Desert and learning the ways of the Yaqui Indians and their lore, and also experimenting with a lot of different psychoactive substances. So this is the true first printing, the University of California Press. So then I have the commercial publication of this book, a first edition by Simon & Schuster. So I have that. This was published in 1973. All right, so there's that. And then the second book is A Separate Reality, further conversations with Don Juan. Again, this is a first edition in very, very nice condition that I have. Then I have a copy of Journey to Island. Again, very nice first edition copy. That I sought out to collect all first editions of these books. The pages are they're getting a bit yellow, and they might be reaching a point where they're going to start getting crispy, where they might even break. So, I don't open and read these anymore, although I would like to reread the series, but I'm going to buy paperbacks to do that. Then I've got two copies of the next one, which is Tales of Power. And I have one copy here that's got a chip on the dust jacket. These are both Simon & Schuster first editions. Also, this is published in 1974. And I haven't bothered to look up what the going rate is to buy these now, but that's Tales of Power, which was next in the series. Then I also have two copies of the second Ring of Power. This is when we're introduced to a woman, witch doctor or whatever, that Doña Soledad. We're introduced to her. So I have a first copy U.S. edition, and then I have, which is on the Simon & Schuster, but then I also have this first edition British pressing, which is Hodder and Stoughton is the publishing house for that one. This is 1977. Okay. Then this is in really rough condition, and I haven't looked for a better copy. It's been a while, but you can see the Eagle's Gift. A lot of chipping on the dust cover down here, but the book itself is in excellent condition. You could still read it without worrying about breaking the spine or, breaking pages. So that's a 1981. Then we have the newer ones he published in the series. The Power of Silence, Further Lessons of Don Juan. This is a first edition. First edition from 1987. Then he did The Fire from Within, which was kind of the final installment in the series. Got a big, tear in the corner on the dust jacket on the back. Then, this is a first edition. Yes, it is. So we got that one. Then there were some subsequent books that were published. Pull those down here. There was The Wheel of Time by Carlos Castaneda. The Shamans of Ancient Mexico, Their Thoughts About Life, Death, and the Universe. It's really kind of a book of, if you ever read the Tao Te Ching, the way it is structured with just like really short, brief chapters of just short sayings or little quips of knowledge. That's kind of the style that this book follows. And then we have Magical Passes, The Practical Wisdom of the Shamans of Ancient Mexico. So what this book does is it just describes the different kind of Tai Chi movements, mystical movements that the shamans make in order to intake power from the world around them. And then I have The Art of Dreaming, which was published. This book is a little bit on the yellowed side, so you've got some oxidation of the pages. But what was this? This is a first edition that was published in, where is it? 1993. So it must not have been very good paper because it's already yellowing, and it's only from 1993. And then there's this one here, Florinda Donner, The Witch's Dream, which is Florinda Donner's book, is kind of a woman's take on the shamanistic practices of the shamans of Mexico. This is a first edition, also from 1985. So there are those books that I will be packing up. So yeah, I'm going to go into the second shelf. The item here is these are little frogs made out of, I believe it's teak wood, that I also bought in Bali while I was there. Kind of neat little thing. This is a kachina that metal kachina that I bought in New Mexico. Very dusty, boy, I've got to clean that up. That I have on my bookshelf. And I've got this empty bottle of Ravenswood Rye by the Journeyman Distillery, which is a Michigan distillery. It's empty. They were sued because there's Ravenswood Wine Cellars, a California wine producer, who sued this whiskey distiller on copyright infringement, I guess, because of the name Ravenswood. It would confuse consumers with their product. Just that's such crazy BS. But I just, I like this whiskey, but I hadn't bought it in a while, and this bar told me that when this bottle was empty, they would give it to me. I really would have preferred to have one that was full, because then it would be a true collectible item. Now it's just a bottle that'll get thrown away. All right, the books. So I've got some travel books here. First one is Fresh Air Fiend by Paul Theroux and his travel writings. I have not read this, so I'm not exactly sure, what he's writing about, what locations he's been to. And there's somebody left a heart on the inside of the book. But anyway, yes, Fresh Air Fiend. And then I have The Magic of Provence, which is kind of a memoir of someone who bought a house in Provence, and I'm writing about it. So there are some chapters that actually have recipes for different dishes that are indigenous, so to speak, to Provence, but also some wonderful descriptions, of the countryside and the people. A very enjoyable read if you like that kind of book. Then William Least Heat Moon, Blue Highways, fairly famous book where, he just got in his car and drove across America, sort of went in a big loop around the country. Very interesting travelogue, very enjoyable read. And because I enjoyed that, I also picked up this book that he also wrote called Prairie Earth. And interesting spelling of Prairie Earth. William Least Heat Moon. I have not read this one though, but it is a signed copy that I picked up. Actually, it's inscribed because he signed it with a note to Barbara Jones. So I'm looking forward to getting around to reading that. Then we come to books I have by Frank Waters. Frank Waters is a historical fiction writer and also a nonfiction writer of the Southwest, predominantly about the people of Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona, and to some degree of northern Mexico. And this is probably his magnum opus, The Pikes Peak, A Family Saga. So it's a historical novel about this family living in the general Colorado Springs area and around Pikes Peak. Very interesting book, very interesting characters. He writes with great care about the characters, and it definitely was a very enjoyable read. I like Frank Waters. He is among my favorite writers. Then this one is a signed copy of The Man Who Killed the Deer by Frank Waters. And all my books are falling over. It's supposed to be in a slipcase, but this copy, I don't have the slipcase, but it is a numbered copy and signed by him. And it's about an Indian who lives, how they say, in two worlds. He from the Taos Pueblo. He went to university in the east, and then he came back to the Pueblo, and he's not fully accepted by white people. He's no longer fully accepted by the Pueblo people of Taos Pueblo. And so it's a bit of a story of him struggling with that, and also wonderful descriptions of the area around Taos, the terrain, the mountains, and also the culture of the people in the Pueblo. Then we have, let me grab these. Okay. We have The Woman at Otoe Crossing, which is a historical fiction book about Los Alamos and the building of the atomic bomb. The Woman at Otoe Crossing is a fictional woman who ran a cafe at the bottom of the mountain from Los Alamos, where Oppenheimer and the others would come and have lunch. And so it explores how the Manhattan Project was being felt by the people, the native people who lived in that area, and how they reacted to the mystery, etc., of what was going on up there in the mountain. Then we have The Yogi of Cockroach Court, which is a novel about, I'll read from the back here. In this novel of the mestizo, or mixed blood, Frank Waters completes the southwestern canvas begun in The Man Who Killed the Deer and The People of the Valley, which I'll mention in a moment. Set in a violent Mexican border town, the story centers on Barbie, a tormented mestizo, Guadalupe, the mestiza percentage girl, and Tai Ling, the serene yogi. Their fates mingle though each remains alone. Barbie bound to the brute rages of night, Guadalupe unconscious of all save the sun of her sexuality, Tai Ling believing it is possible to transcend completely the flow of life. So really, really enjoyable read. Read it years ago, but I do remember that I really liked the book. Then I mentioned People of the Valley. So that's the book here. This is not Frank Waters' signature. That is a previous owner who wrote their name on it. But The People of the Valley is more of it's a story about the people who live in the mountains of New Mexico. The Hispanic people who settled that area of New Mexico. So it is a fiction story, but it's very detailed in how they lived their lives. It describes how each person the land that they owned went from the river or creek in the bottom of the valley right up the side of the mountain to the top of the mountain. So they had access to low land for farming, a place to build their home, and then access to forest where they could get firewood. And that's how lots were developed, in New Mexico at the time. So really, really interesting read. Pumpkin Seed Point, Being with the Hopi. So he wrote a couple books, and this one as well, Book of the Hopi. Book of the Hopi is very, very famous, and this is an anthropological study of the Hopi Indians of the Four Corners region of Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and Colorado. And Pumpkin Seed Point is also he draws a story from the 3 years that he lived there. In Book of the Hopi, he was the first white man to ever witness. He became so close with the Hopi that they showed him ceremonies and told him about things that no other white man ever heard directly from the Hopi Indians. A really interesting book if you are interested in Southwest Indian anthropology. Okay, then I'm going to finish up with this next author, and that is Willa Cather. And she is a writer from the early to almost the mid-20th century, mostly the early 20th century. This is a collection of her works. I've read a few stories in here, so there are some short stories and some novels. She writes stories that are very prosaic about people, who just live with the land and struggle with the land. Very memorable characters, and very, very beautiful and pastoral descriptions of the land in which they live. And it could be about a family who is living and had homesteaded on the plains of Kansas or Nebraska, to a priest who wanders the desert Southwest, to a professor who works at a prestigious university in the Midwest, but seems to be reaching a point in his life where he's confronted with doubt. And some of these stories, I have. There's Sapphira and the Slave Girl, and I have not read this one yet, so I'm not sure what it is about. Obscure Destinies, I have read, and I cannot remember what it's about. It's been a while since I read it. I do remember, though, that I enjoyed it very, very much. And then we have My Antonia, which is a story about a family settling, a homesteading family, and I believe it's in Nebraska. And it just really describes what it's like to be living on the frontier and the lifestyle of that. She writes with a very warm style. And not only was Willa Cather a lesbian, she was also a nonconformist, sexual nonconformist. So she at times tended to dress like a man, and she hung out with other ambiguous writers, at that time. She was a contemporary of Oscar Wilde. I cannot remember if the two of them ever had any significant meetings or anything like that. Then there's this one of ours. This book is a story about World War I and about a young man from, simple upbringing in the plains, who then goes to war during World War I. She took a lot of criticism for this book because she seemed to be writing it from a pro-war perspective. And I'm not sure if it was a pro-war perspective. It might have been pro-interventionist to some degree, but given her other books and what she was writing about, there were quite a few people apparently took umbrage with the perspective that she took with this book. She tended to glorify war and soldiers participating in war, that there was honor to it. And whether you like war or not, there is an honor to serving, and families of the fallen soldiers, the soldiers who were killed in battle, they feel that pride. And, we may not agree with that, but it's real. And that's what I like about Willa Cather, that she writes about very real things in wonderful, simple language. Then I have a couple paperbacks of hers. Death Comes for the Archbishop, which is a story about Father Lamy, who is a real person, but this is kind of a fictionalized story. He was a priest in New Mexico, so in the American Southwest, and his wanderings around there. I've been to Lamy, New Mexico, and I used to live in that area, and I'm very familiar with the places described here. It's a really wonderful book. And then The Professor's House, I mentioned, that she wrote about a professor at a prestigious university. That's what The Professor's House is. Which I live in Chicago now, and in north of Chicago we have Evanston, which is where Northwestern University is, and that's the university that this character is from. And also, because of the time period, we're talking about maybe the 20s or 30s, if I can remember. And she also describes the area of Chicago known as Hyde Park, which was at that time, a very upscale neighborhood. That's where the University of Chicago is located. And it's not so much an upscale area anymore, but you can see the just amazing architecture with the buildings down in that area of Chicago. And then the final book is Double Lives, Willa Cather. So this is a biography. And as you can see, you know, the image here of Willa Cather, you know, wearing a tie, a man's tie. So yeah, she was a gender nonconformist. And so this was a very interesting and well written biography of Willa Cather that I would recommend. If you read any of her books and you enjoy them, then you might want to read the biography of her life. That's all I'm going to do for now with this particular shelf of books, because I've got a 30-minute video already. I hope you enjoy that. If you haven't read any of these authors, you might consider picking them up. I've enjoyed all of them. I do enjoy getting comments, so leave a comment in the down under. I also have a Facebook page. This is called Calvin Wazoo, but that is primarily focused on the videos I do about music and record collecting and other articles that I find about music and musicians. And then I have a Instagram account where I go by the handle of NewsDude76, that's NEWZDUDE76, where I post a variety of photos, etc., and content on there. So I hope you enjoy all that. And hit the like button, you know, if you feel like subscribing, that's great. You're going to get both book content and vinyl record content. But even if you've already subscribed, or if you decide not to subscribe, hit the like button, because that really does help me. It helps all creators on YouTube to hit that like button, because it tells YouTube and the algorithm that maybe they should be spreading this content out to more people, so more people have access to it. It's a great way to support the people and the creators on YouTube that you enjoy. So yeah, hit that like button. And then always remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.